Hey guys, what's going on? This is Pantsar Dragon, and today we'll be doing a rundown of the patch 5.8 notes and giving you my insight on things, what I think is going to happen, some theory crafting here and now, etc, etc, and hopefully we can get this done in less than, let's go, 15 minutes. So let's get started. First up, we're going to be talking about Ryze, and right here, I've actually tried him on the PvE. I kind of think he's a bit worse, but he does have some pros, like he has his passive where he bursts someone, because what his passive does is once he gets 5 stacks, which is accumulated by casting spells, whenever he casts a spell, all his other spells are reduced by the amount of cooldown on your Q, so you can just keep barraging spells on someone, and you also gain a magic, a shield. So he does have more pros in that sense, where he can burst someone out and be like the supercharged Ryze, but I think old Ryze is a bit more consistent, and yeah, that's just my opinion on it. But honestly, I can't tell because they probably buffed him a lot more since I've actually played him on the PvE. So let me get in depth with Ryze right about now. For base stats, I think it's a buff because as you can see, base regen gets down, but mana regen goes up, and this cancels out at level 5. And right here you get an armor growth stats, which is increased, so that's kind of good. And right here, I explained the passive already. You get a shield, and that's what I think may be better than the old Ryze, because he gets a free shield now, and not just from Seraph's Embrace. So that might contribute to the late game, mid game team fight factor. So next up, let's go talking about his Q. So right here, it's a skill shot now, which sucks. No more consistency. Yeah, the mana cost on it is lower, but as you can see, the cooldown is a bit more, and AP ratio has gone up more, but the only thing you get is Rod of Ages and Seraph's Embrace. That's around like 300 AP. And right here, the mana ratio is decreased heavily, like super heavily. So that is a nerf in my opinion, and Q will be doing less damage than usual. So right here we have the W, and as you can see, more nerfs coming to the W. The damage has gone down, but we haven't contributed and added the factor of his passive, where he shoots a bunch of spells and barrages you. So let's contribute that at the end. Alright, so next up we have Spell Flux, and it's actually a new skill. It actually works differently than old Ryze's E, and instead of reducing flat magic resist, it reduces percentage. I think percentage is better in the late game, but definitely for early game and mid game, flat is better, so I feel like that's a nerf. And right here, you know how Spell Flux bounces to each target, and it can actually bounce to the same target 3 times if they're like, 2 people standing near each other, kind of like Fiddlesticks' E. It doesn't do that anymore. Instead, what it does, it hits everyone once, and for up to a total of 6 secondary targets before returning to the original target. So it kind of is a nerf, and I'm actually looking at the stats right here, and looking at both of them, I think it's kind of a nerf, to be honest, but I'm not sure. We'll have to see later once people start using him and analyze it from there. Lastly, we'll be talking about his R. So cooldown goes up, and then duration goes down, and then now it interacts with his new passive. So that's going to be interesting. My opinion on it, I don't have one yet since it actually wasn't in the PvE when I played him. And right here, his Q passive is actually changed onto his ultimate. And what does this mean? So originally, Q cooldown reduction only went up to 10%, but now you automatically get it at level 6. So it's actually kind of good. Actually, yeah, it's pretty good. But the thing is, now you don't have to put points into cooldown reduction on your mastery page, or even get a Frozen Heart. I mean, what I'm saying is you'll probably still get the Frozen Heart because it's a great item, but like right now, you don't really have to, because the 20% is wasted. Maybe you can leave it at Glacial Shroud for a while. Yeah, and especially in those games where you're facing a bunch of magic damage, for sure, just buy a Glacial Shroud and deal with it later. But that's my opinion, and final opinion on Ryze. So I think he's gonna have a worse time in the laning phase because his Q is a skill shot, and that's his main harassing tool. And then also in the mid game and late game, if he wants to go an AD carry or squishy, a tank can block his Q by just standing in front of him. So just because of that, I think Ryze is actually a worse champion. But honestly, we have to see the win rates, how it changes, what's going to happen with him, etc. So that's not my final opinion yet. I have to see what happens. Alright, so right here, we're just going to be going through this really fast. Right here, Ahri, she can't E people and stop them, like Malphite's ultimate, Vi's ultimate, and Hecarim's ultimate. She used to stop them, now they can't. It was pretty bad glitch, so good thing they fixed it. Alright, so right here, Bard is getting a smell buff. As you can see, chimes won't spawn in the enemy's jungle before 5 minutes, and that'd be dangerous because, you know, you go in the enemy's jungle and you're in enemy's territory, and you could get caught out of position. And right here, experience is being increased after 5 minutes, and blah blah blah. Let's sum it up. Is Bard good right now? I've actually seen him a few times in solo queue. He's decent. He has his utility. I feel like there's like other supports right now who are better. Yeah, that's how I feel, and maybe this might put him in the LCS or whatever, but I just can't see it because his ult is very one-dimensional kind. I don't even know if that's the right word. I'm using it right, but I think it's a complicated word. I'm just gonna say one-dimensional. It has its uses, and it's very situational when it will be useful or not. Alright, so next up we have Blitzcrank, and right here, his W, some people were actually saying that his W, the movement speed decay, was actually immense, and it was kind of impactful on him, and you can notice it a lot more. And so they kind of fixed that, I think, and I didn't go over this in the last note, but basically, yeah, they kind of changed his W, and what people are doing right now is maxing Q and then E for more CC, as the W increase, or when you put levels in it, isn't that great. So that's kind of interesting, and honestly, I think he'll be a good support. Like, I don't think he was a good support in the last patch, but maybe if this is enough, I feel like he may be back into the top 5 of supports. Right here, Caitlyn gets a W, increased visibility in bush. Cool. And right here, just some tooltip changes on Q, or sorry, passive and R. Now this is interesting change right here. This is very interesting because if you would actually Q a minion or whatever, you'd only get 50% of your health back, but if you kill it, now you get 100%. This is going to be good. I actually think he's going to be really good in LCS because what he's going to do in competitive play is he's going to go in those 1v2, and now he can farm safely with the cleavers. So that's going to be really interesting. As for laning against tough matchups, of course, too, because now he can farm from a range and, you know, not get hit or whatever. Also, he's pretty good. I think he's actually pretty good with Skirmisher, Saber, Teleport. Because he gets a melee in your face, can stick to you pretty good. So this is going to be really interesting, I think, and you might see top Mundos come back even more than Season 4. Alright, so next up we're going to be talking about Graves, and right here his Q is getting a nerf. Base damage goes down, AD ratio goes down, but the bonus damage per bullet is going up, which is kind of useless because you're not going to go in team fights and dash in and go boom and shotgun everyone. You're going to use it as a damaging skill, and it's going to do 180. It's going to do 20 damage less and have a little bit less AD ratio. So what does this all mean? His laning phase is weaker because his harass is going to be a little bit weaker, but I think his mid game and late game are going to be relatively the same, and I think that's it. He might go down from number 1 or 2. I forgot where I put him for sure. Maybe, I'm not sure, but we'll have to see. Alright, so next up we're going to be talking about Jinx, and as you can see, the minimum damage on a rocket is being reduced heavily to what you see here from this. So I do want to go over this a bit. The missing health percent is still there, so I think you can still use it as an execute in a way. But honestly, whenever I play Jinx, I never see myself using it to up close and personal and finishing it off. I usually use it when the enemy isn't in distance of my auto attacks, or maybe even zap or whatever, right? So it's not that big of a deal, and I think she's still going to be like really good. She's still going to be insanely good in the late game, mid game, when she gets like BFs or Bloodthirster, Infinity Edge, Phantom Dancer. She's super scary. So this nerf, I mean, it might hurt in 1v1s where you have to use that rocket to finish him off, but I feel like there's a big cast time on the rocket, so you might get more autos when you're casting that rocket for sure. So not a big nerf. Alright, so next up is going to be Kha'Zix, and right here the heal amount on his W is going to be 60 instead of 40 level 1. So from levels 1 to I think 7, you're going to have 60 healing instead of 40. Once you get level 8, this is going to be 85 instead of 70, etc, and kind of racks up to 160. Level 14, something around that. And you know, Kha'Zix, he's not being played in the jungle except by this one person named Diamond 1 Kha'Zix, who is ranked 22 challenger, so he's not Diamond 1, and this is gonna be a big buff to him. He's actually got a pretty good win rate on his Kha'Zix, and I feel like if he can play it in jungle and be really good and have a really good ratio and be ranked 22, maybe Kha'Zix was in a fine place, but for sure seeing this, you're probably going to see a lot more Kha'Zixes and he might be back in the meta, but it is a tanky kind of meta where Kha'Zix can't really assassinate. But then again, Diamond 1 Kha'Zix, he proved me wrong and said I can do this in this tank meta, right? So he probably will be back next batch. We'll see. You'll see a lot of people trying him out again in solo queue and seeing if it works for them. Alright, next up is going to be Mordekaiser, and right here just some casting times on his W being removed or something. And Nunu, nothing special. Wait, health growth stat. So I did some calculations, and how much health is he losing at level 18? Well, 6 times 18, he loses 108 health. Big whoop. So it's nothing at all. Alright, so right here, Shen and Pantheon get the Rek'Sai ping when they use their ultimate. And now we're going to be talking about Sion. Here, Sion's getting nerfed. Detonation timer goes up to 3 seconds, and now your hit point ratio on your shield is going down to 6% at level 1, but it comes back up at 10. Now, how does this affect Sion? Honestly, when I played Sion top, I would max out W second, so I don't feel like this affects me too much. Since in the laning phase you don't have that much health yet, you probably have like 800, 900, so I don't think it's that big of a deal. But for trading, of course, just a tiny bit. And yeah, that's basically it. Most people max out Q now in the top lane because of those nerfs to the E. He's still going to be a solid laner for sure, and he still got him his amount of CC, and his late game, mid game potential is still there. So it's just an impact to his early game, early laning phase, of course, and that's about it. He still played, right? So you'll probably still see him. Right here, Twitch's ultimate can now hit inhibitors and Nexus, blah blah blah. Fix a bug on blah blah blah. Xerath can ult himself, no more, blah blah blah. And now let's talk about Yasuo. Right here, Yasuo is getting a buff to his shield. As you can see at level 1, instead of being 60 health for free, it's going to be 100 shield health for free. At the cost of having the flow charge rate a bit reduced, but I think that's fine because with this 100 shield, there's absolutely no one who can trade with you when you have it up, so definitely go for that harass and trade if you can. And I think it's going to emphasize Yasuo's trading in the early game a bit more when their flow is fully charged. As for Yasuo, I don't think he's like a decent champion right now. I think definitely his previous iterations were better, but I don't like him in solo queue. I really don't like him in solo queue, so that's just my opinion. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if this will put him back into LCS or whatever. Alright, so we're going to be going over Lucian's Cleaver just a tiny bit because I actually want to do a separate video going in depth and doing an analysis of what champions might want to use this and how it affects maybe other champions who used to use it. But basically, it's an item for bruisers because now you get like the Phage passive, which is actually really good for melee bruisers because they need to stick to their targets, and you know, more cooldown reduction, more health, you know, all these tanky stats. And yeah, Phage builds out of Phage and Kindle Gem. Armor shred stacks has increased to 6, which is really interesting. We'll see that about that later. And yeah, I think it's a really good item right now. Alright, so next up we're going to be talking about the recurve bow, and as you can see, the recipe has changed. 2 daggers equals a recurve bow for a total of 1,100 gold, and now it's got a unique passive doing 10 physical damage on hit. So what does this mean? As you can see, it costs 900 gold, but now it's got a new passive, so now it costs 1,100 gold. And you might be thinking, whoa, this is a nerf. That seems really expensive. It's not really, because a longsword actually costs 360 gold, or maybe it's actually it is 360. But for champions like Warwick, this is a really good item because, you know, he doesn't have any AD ratios, so he doesn't need the 10 attack damage. He just needs a 10 on hit physical damage or whatever, so that's pretty good for him and like all these auto attackers who don't really benefit from AD. But I can see it, you know, someone like Zed not benefiting as much as say like a longsword when comparing this passive to a longsword, right? Just say this passive costs 200 gold for sure. So yeah, it's better on people who attack, auto attack, and then a bit worse on people who say have spells like Zed. When speaking of someone like Zed, you still need to get that Blade of Rune King, so you eventually have to buy it, right? So you can see this is being changed. Apparently there was a passive minimum damage, whatever, it's still the same item. And then we got Runon's Hurricane, and now it's actually got the passive of recurve bow. For some reason, Blade of Ruin King Withstand doesn't have it either, but it's only Runon, so this is going to be interesting. Looks like Kalista's getting a buff, right? And I guess Kayle too. And right here, same thing is happening to Devourer. Nothing really changed, just a recurve bow. And Righteous Glory is getting a nerf, which I do agree on. Righteous Glory is a super powerful item. You see everyone is building this instead of something like Warmogs or Rod of Ages, because you can initiate and catch people really easily by pressing one button. And yeah, it's still going to be a good item, don't worry about it. So definitely buy it on those junglers who like to catch people. Alright, so right here they're talking about the first dragon buff, and basically what it's saying is auto attack damage will be a bit higher, and then physical damage spells will be a bit lower. That's basically it. And yeah, that's basically it for these notes. I'm pretty sure I went past 15 minutes, but whatever. Hope you guys enjoyed the analysis, and be sure to look out for that Black Cleaver video I'll be trying to release by either tomorrow or 2 days after. So again, I am Panzer Dragon, and I'll see you guys next time.